Okay, so in our last video, we talked about the capacity of containers and the volume of containers. Today, we're looking for the complete volume inside of a cylinder. So a cylinder is made when two circles are connected together into a 3D shape. So a cylinder is very similar when we were looking for the area to a cube. So when we find the volume of a cube, what we're looking for is we're looking for base times height. So we're looking for that base area times the height. So what would our base area be for a cube? So when looking at it for the total volume of our cube, we know that volume is going to be equal to that base. So the base would be length times width of the square times the height. So that's our very simple volume equation that can be used for many different shapes. So here's a couple other shapes that we can use this equation with. So it's good for many, many different prisms that we might be looking for. So we can always multiply that base times the height to find the area. Now, when we're looking at our cylinder and we want to find the volume of that cylinder, we're going to be using a similar method. But now we can't do length times width times height. That's the tricky part here. So what we have to do first is we have to figure out what is the area of one of the circles. So let's think back to one of our previous lessons when we were finding the area of a circle. When we found the area of the circle, we knew that area was equal to pi times the radius squared. So if we know what the base is going to be, this would be our base, and we multiplied that by the length of the cylinder, we could come up with the formula volume is equal to base times height. Now we have to change these variables here, and these variables are going to be changed into pi times r squared times the height to get our volume equation that we're going to be using for cylinders. So here's our equation here. Volume is equal to pi r squared times height. So I'm just going to erase all of this and I'll be back with you in a moment for an example. So in your textbook on page 254, there's a sample question. So it says the base of a juice can is a circle with the diameter of 6.8 centimeters. So we have 6.8 centimeters. That's the diameter of our circle. So that's the line that passes through the center of the circle from side to side. So it's the biggest point in the circle. Now the height of the can is 12.2 centimeters. So I'm just going to draw a line here. That's the height of the can. 12.2 centimeters. Now, what they're asking is what is the volume of the can? So the first thing we have to write down is our equation for volume that we're going to be using. So volume is going to be equal to pi r squared times the height. So we're first going to find our base times height. So if we're looking for our base, we know that we have the diameter is 6.8 centimeters, but we know that we can't input diameter into this equation. So we first have to use our radius formula. R is equal to d over 2 to figure out what our radius is going to be. So R is equal to 6.8 divided by 2. So R is going to be equal to 3.4. So now we have our R. We have R. We have our radius. So now we can start to populate our formula. So volume is equal to pi, and then we have R. I like to put it always in brackets to make sure I know and I'm organized and I can see clearly what's happening. Pi times 3.4 squared times the height. Now the height is 12.2 centimeters. And I'm just going to put that in brackets just because it's starting to flow into the other formula. Now, if we were to calculate this, we're going to punch this whole number into our calculators. So if I punch that whole thing into my calculator, I would know that the answer is going to be 443.7. Now, let me just check with the textbook. Let's see what they're asking. So what is the volume of the can? So we are going to round this number so that way we get a whole number. And when we're calculating volume, we have to remember what our units are going to be. So currently we're in centimeters, but when we calculate area, we would be squared. Now volume is different because we're not only finding the area, so the area would just be a 2D shape, but now we're finding the volume, so that's a 3D shape. So it's going to turn into centimeters squared. So if I was to round this number, it would equal 443 centimeters cubed. So the total our total volume is 443 centimeters cubed. So always write out what your answer is going to be, and don't forget the units at the very end of the problem so I can make sure that you're working through the problems correctly. So thanks for watching this video. Hopefully this helped you out with finding the volume of a cylinder, and we'll see you in the next one.